Hello and welcome to this tutorial on loops. You know, if you want to execute a line of code multiple times, like if you want to write hello world 20 times, or if you want to write something else 20 times, or for example do something 20 times or more, you could use loops. And there's two types of loops. There are, by the way, these are comments. So you just type 2 slashes, and then everything you type after this will be ignored. You can type semicolon, colon, brackets, everything on that line. So that's how to use comments. So there's two types of loops. There's for loops and there's while loops. Those are the most commonly used. There are more loops, but these are the two most commonly used type of loops: the for and while. And the way you use loops is like this. So I'm just gonna excuse me, console.read. I'm just gonna add this so that we can have a stop in our program. So the way you use loops is that we're gonna begin with using a for loop. So the way you use loops, or the for loop, is that you type for, open parentheses. Now you need some sort of counter. This initializes a counter. So we're going to use an int. Just call that int I for integer, and we're gonna set that to 0. Now we need a condition. This condition is gonna run every time the loop executes. So let's say if I is less than 0, and then we need now this is some sort of code that is going to run every time the loop has looped. So I'll type I plus plus, and then close parentheses, open curly bracket and close curly bracket. So I plus plus. What this does, that is basically the same as I equals I plus I, or no, I plus 1. That is basically what it is. So I plus plus, that's much shorter to type, so I'll just type that. Now inside this is the body of the loop. And the body of the loop is what code will run every time. So let's do console.writeLine, and let's just do hello. We could do hello loops. Like that, and we'll just add a console writeLine done here, so that we know when the loop is finished. Okay, so let's run this and see what happens. So you can debug a program quickly by pressing F5 in Visual Studio, and here you see hello loops 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20. So it ran 20 times. If you want to know how long it run, we could, for example, do number and plus, and now you can use I as a variable, because I is is the counter, and that variable can work inside of this, but it does not work outside here. You see, if I try to do I, there's no variable for I, so I get an error. So now if you run the program, see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 19. This is how it runs because it always checks if 20, if I is less than 20, and if it is 20, then it's not gonna run. It's just gonna jump down. So because we set I to be 0, and that's what it starts up with. It just goes through the code, goes back, and checks if 0 is less than 20, which it is, and then it runs until it reaches 19. 19 is less than 0. It runs one more time. Then it's 20. Is 20 less than 20? No, it's the same as 20, so it will not run. Jumps out and continues executing the code. Console.writeLine done, and then console.read. So enter, it exits. So that's the for loop. But what if you don't need a counter, or you don't want to do this? There is another loop called a while loop, and then that that loop can run while the condition is true. So I like to use while loops. For example, here you have this while loop, and I can just type true here, and it's gonna run forever because it's going to run as long as this condition is true, and it is always true. So let's type something else. We can initialize the counter here as well, like I equals 0, and then while I is less than 20, and plus I, and then we have to do it here. So I plus plus semicolon, and this is going to function the exact same way. See? Like that. Although I actually think while loops are a tad slower than for loops. I think for loops are a bit faster, but while loops are easier to understand, because while I is less than 0, then it's going to do this, and there's one more type of while loop. You have the do while loop. So do, we can use do and then x, and here we type while and then our condition. That's like this, I believe. No? Like that. So do this while I is 20. And then that means it's going to run at least once. So if we set this to like if I is greater than 0, then it's not going to run. But you see it still runs one time. But if we were to use just a regular while loop here, let's go ahead and change it to a while loop, it doesn't run, it just says done. That's because in a while loop and a for loop, the condition is checked before the loop executes. But in a do while loop, the condition is checked after. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, and that is actually the most common loops you will be using. So this has been a short tutorial on loops, and this is just kind of the basics of loops, because of course you could do a lot more with them, but this is just the basics of loops. We'll maybe go into loops more advanced later, but for now, this is just the basics you need: the for loop, the while loop, and the do while loop. So, yeah, goodbye.